babaca. Puta babaca, babaca, puta.
Don't forget the camera is on.
Muitas pessoas se escrevem pelas mídias sociais perguntando: Amigo Gringo, quando você e Eric estão sozinhos, vocês conversam em inglês ou em português? Bom, a resposta é que conversamos em inglês, porque a nossa língua materna seria bem artificial falar outra coisa. Mas aí decidi que seria legal deixar vocês espiarem uma conversa espontânea entre a gente. Por isso, quando a gente estava indo de carro de Recife a João Pessoa, deixamos a câmera ligada e escolhi um trecho legal para vocês assistirem, em que falamos dos erros que a gente ainda faz no Brasil, apesar de ser, em teoria, os especialistas em comportamento. Na verdade, somos puta babacas. Se gostar, dê um like e inscreva-se no canal e também no canal do Eric para não perder os outros vídeos da nossa viagem para o Nordeste.
You know how Brazilians, when they go into somebody's house, maybe, I don't know if you know this, they always say, com licença. Like, you open the door, and like, com licença, and then they go in. You know?
I hadn't really noticed that. That's kind of a weird thing. Why would you excuse yourself?
Yeah, you're saying, like, may I have sort of permission to come in? You've given me a license, literally, to come in. It's just polite, you know? Like, you're entering someone else's home, so you're, saying, excuse me, like.
But to me, excuse me, I mean, this is the cultural difference. To me, excuse me is more, you're imposing. I guess you are sort of imposing. You're walking into their house.
May I have your blessing to walk into your house? Or I realize this is a slightly uncomfortable situation. But the babaca part is, I just realized yesterday, this was like a total shock to me, that years and years of telling Brazilians that they don't have to say excuse me when they go into your house. I never do say com licença when I walk into a Brazilian's house. I have walked into hundreds, if not thousands, of Brazilian people's houses, and I never in 15 years have said com licença.
Just walking in like an asshole.
So I got to thinking, actually, like, how many things do we tell people on the channel, and then we totally don't do the opposite? Like, we try to make people more comfortable, and the truth is, these are hard things to do.
Yeah. Well, like on the channel, we talk about how to have good etiquette with waiters, and we say, don't grab their arm.
Right. Don't
say amigo. But well, then that means you can do that when you come here.
Right.
And I've been having a relationship for 3 years with Brazil now, and I still can't bring it. I can't bring myself to do it because I'm translating.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a restaurant, I see the waiter, my brain is translating that to English, which would be like, "Hey, buddy."
Yeah, or
and
even
it's rude. It's rude to me. It's awkward.
But man, there are Brazilians who would consider that rude. But at least you have to be like, "Hey man, hey friend, well, hey amigo, whatever." Like, you don't have to yell something to them, but you do have to, speak up.
But for me, it's also. But I think it's still this question of shame. Like, I just feel embarrassed to shout "friend" to a person that I don't know.
Right, exactly. Well, there are ridiculous things that Americans waiters do. Like, I despise when an American waiter comes to your table and says, "Hi, my name is Jan, and I'll be helping you out tonight."
That's the opposite of
helping you out.
That's the opposite of going into a boteco.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I still can't quite. You know the rules, but then you can't quite figure out how to use this. I also think about punctuality. Like, okay, everybody knows people are generally more punctual in the U.S. than in Brazil, so we tell people be more punctual.
Right.
But the funny thing is, there's a lot of details that the Brazilians don't get, and also I don't get when I'm in Brazil. So, like, when I had a birthday party and I invited the Patreon people who donate to Patreon, and I said the party's at 8. In Brazil, maybe like on 10 or 11 or something like that, or like 1 a.m. But you also wouldn't come at 8 in the United States. You would come at like 8:30 or 8:47 or something like that. And literally at 8 p.m. exactly, the door buzzed. And of course it was a Brazilian. And then like the next few guests were Brazilians, started being like, oh, we didn't want to be late because we know you talk on your video about how Brazilians are always late. And I'm like, nice try, A for effort, but you can't, you don't come early to a party. You don't come right on time. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it is a little weird.
You know, it's been hard for me, I think, in the opposite way, because I think I come here and I know that Brazilians are later.
Yeah.
So I calculate lateness, and I think I become rude in the same way they were like too early. I think I become too late. I'm like, oh, Brazilians are late. They're not going to show up on time, so I'll show up an hour late, you know, and it ends up being too much.
Work meeting. How about a work meeting? That's a tough one, because a work meeting, it seems like sometimes I'll go a little early and be right on time, but then I'll have to wait like an hour because they're running so far behind.
Yeah.
But then if I show up a little bit late, I'm late.
I'll tell you what's always on time is Carnaval blocos.
Oh.
Those things are not late, and in fact, if you show up late, it's you get the worst part of the party because it's too crowded. They're already drunk. Things are already not as fun. That first hour of the bloco, that's something I learned. And I was really pushing the people I was with. I was like, we gotta go the first hour of the bloco.
You know, speaking of Carnival, I haven't been to Carnival in a number of years, but it is also, we do our videos about paquera, right? And how you shouldn't kiss an American woman quite as quickly or in a different context.
Right.
But then I also find myself so like constrangido, you know, so embarrassed to be in a situation. I mean, I'm a little old for Carnival now, maybe, but yeah, back in the day.
Back in your prime.
Back in the day, it's just so weird to like approach somebody and then like 2 seconds later try to kiss them.
My Muslim friend was with me in Rio for Carnival.
My God.
And it was her first bloco. We go in and these two people are making out. And she's like, oh my God, they're really kissing very passionately in public. And I said, yeah, and they don't even know each other.
Yeah.
She said, no.
Yeah.
No. I said, yep, they just met. She said, no, this is a love story. They're falling in love. I said, that's definitely not. Look, she's leaving now. She's high-fiving her friends.
In fact, they might be falling in love, but not with each other.
The other one is whenever you start a conversation with someone, there's usually like
I know what you're gonna say.
3 formalities that you have to say before you get into the conversation. Whereas in the United States, we'll go a little quicker into the conversation.
Right.
And in fact, for me,
sometimes you don't even have to say hi.
yeah. And I had like Brazilian employees, and I just will sometimes text them out of the blue, say, "Hey, can you do this for me?"
Yeah.
And immediately I catch myself and I say, "Oh, sorry, I'm in a hurry. That's abrupt. Oi, to the ball."
And also the end of it, because I won't put it abrazos or something like that, and then I'll send it off, and it'll just be like, "Hey, just getting back to you on this thing. Here's the answer." Send, automatic. I'm just send, and then I write back and I say, "Please excuse the lack of abrazos in that last email."
And in between those emails, they were probably thinking, "I wonder why Seth hates us."
Well, the other thing is, I don't ever really know how to end a business email, because there's people end it in completely different ways. There'll be people who will write in a sort of an informal way and then say abrazos, and I don't even know them. Or there's other people who write like ATTE. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
It's like atentamente.
Oh yeah. I thought it meant like atenção.
Or yeah.
Oh no, but it's atenciosamente.
Something like that. Whatever it is, I see that and I'm like, wait a minute, should I really be sending abrazos on the end of business things? And then the next level is, if you're just saying abrazos, at what point can you send beijos if it's a woman? Clearly not in the first, like, you have to know each other clearly, but like I have 2 separate business conversations going on now with people I've been in touch with for a while, and they're both women.
Yeah.
And one is always beijos and one is always abrazos.
And does it change, like, do you ever give beijos to men in a business email?
Not that you know of. No, I don't. No. One more, and then I think we should stop at one of these guys selling pineapple on the side of the road. See that?
Oh, yeah.
We do. If I'm with a Brazilian and we're at a thing and we're leaving, I can't stand it when he or she says goodbye to everybody. I still can't stand it. I know you need to start leaving like 15 minutes before you're leaving. and then you say goodbye to everyone. And even though I know culturally correct, you need to do this, I sit there and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I can't stand it.
I think this is part of the reason why certain cultures are late, is because not just the greeting and goodbye, but it's also like each time you interact with someone, like you go and you stop off to get coffee, you talk with them for longer than you would. There's so many interactions that take longer, as opposed to us, we're like more about getting some business done.
It is funny. Sometimes I'm like, I say oi, and then I'm like, oh, hold on a second, gotta go through this. Okay, oi, tudo bem, como está, blah, 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 blah. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it is just interesting to think about, like, it's definitely a do as I say, not as I do situation, and that's because this stuff is really hard. You can't just, like, know it and then automatically do it.
Yeah.
It, like, takes years sometimes, but at least you should be conscious. Like, I'm pretty conscious that I'm doing these things wrong.
And even within a culture, like within American culture, I've had to learn things.
Right.
Being even born and raised in the United States, I still have had cultural things about
Like
greeting
what?
people. Oh, well, even just the idea of when you walk into a room, say hello to everyone in the room.
Right.
That's not my community that I grew up with. But for me, and wanting to be social and successful and all that sort of thing, I noticed my friends do it, and so I started doing it.
But not like if you walk into a movie theater.
Yeah, every single one. Every single one. I walk up to one and I say, hello, you, puta, babaca, to each one. And I pull out a can of Dolly and I have them give a tiny
All right. Okay, let's change the subject.